How about we go around and just introduce ourselves and say where we're from and who we are. Who wants to start?
I'll go first.
Awesome.
Um, my name is Lyanne Fowler, and I'm the editor of Disciples Today. I live in Portland, Maine.
Great. Zach, are you next?
I'm next. I'm Zach Fazio. I'm a videographer, a YouTuber, and I make videos for Kidogo, for the churches.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'm Ben Fout, and I'm with Truce Media. I'm a director, so content creator there, with Josh as well.
Yep, and I'm Josh Dillard. I'm currently in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm part of Truce Media as well, and I do video work, editing, and different forms of media.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, I'll get started if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, go ahead and lead us off, Ben.
Great. So today I was just going to do a quick thing because I know we want to get to questions and things like that. Today I wanted to talk about audience. So we're talking about content creation in this session. And target audience is kind of where I think you start with any sort of content creation, whether that's writing or video or any content. Basically, you're identifying who you're talking to. So what they like, what they believe in is a big one. And then what they're used to consuming the content, like how they're used to consuming this type of content that you're creating. So just as an example, I specialize in video content, a video producer. So we focus on two big aspects before we produce anything. And we decide one, where the video is going to go. So if it's just Vimeo or YouTube, or if it's just on your website or Instagram, or TikTok or whatever it is, all of those have different restrictions and different, even just technical aspects that you should think about before you even start creating any content. And then two, the audience thing, who are you speaking to, and how they're used to consuming this content. Tony Fernandez was speaking during the yesterday on live stage at Church Culture during a pandemic speech, and he had a really cool story about before there was any technology, churches were marketing in a way they were going to where the people were, and so into a new territory. So that's kind of like what we're doing now. This whole online thing is super new to a lot of us, and so it's a new territory, and we just need to go where the people are, which is online. But he said this really cool thing. If we don't change our methods, no one will hear our message. And that was really cool because everyone has a message, no matter what you're creating, content-wise, you have a message. And if you figured out who you're telling that message to, then you're just better set up to create that content. So he was really talking about a target audience and where that audience lives. So the same rules apply with this new technology, with this online stuff. So Hans Rasmussen was a speaker this morning on operating online. And he said it was a good example. He created a Facebook group, and it wasn't, I can't remember what it was called. So if anyone knows, but he said it wasn't called fear mongering. It was called hope monger or something like that. But basically that was a really cool way to show they were living on Facebook. They were creating their content for Facebook. So they go on Facebook and all that content that they do is specifically for Facebook. It wasn't just taking what you're doing at your church, up on stage, your sermons and things, and just throwing it up on Facebook. It was what do the people want on Facebook, and then taking your content and making it fit there. That's basically that point. But you really don't have to reinvent the wheel. And sometimes that's really overwhelming when people are saying, oh, just go create content on Facebook or whatever. There's so many examples out there, and we can't possibly cover everything in this session right now. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so many tools, and I think we're going to be talking about a lot of them today here right now. But I would leave you with sort of 3 points or 3 things to think about One, you just have to create content. That's what it comes down to. Two, you have to tell a story. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too. And then for a specific audience, which hopefully I sort of covered a little more. And then take that and make it your own. Use the tools that you have. Even your iPhone for creating video is not the most terrible thing to do, especially if you put some cool music with it. And so that's pretty much it. So if you want more help with this, Truce Media is doing, we have a Google form, so go on and fill out your information and we can follow up with you and give you a lot more pointers and tips and tools and tricks to sort of do this. So I'm going to post that in the comments now, but that's pretty much all I had for you guys.
Thanks, Ben. I think Leanne was going to be talking about the story element of that, and I think that kind of goes a little bit with what you started us off with, Ben. So if you wouldn't mind just jumping in there, Leanne. It looks like our slides have been disabled, and I cannot figure out how to add another screen for us to add a media slate on there. I think I'd have to connect it a way I just wasn't prepared for. So if you don't mind reading off, if you do have slides, your slides, and then we'll go ahead and just all gather all the slides from you guys if you have them, and we'll post it on a link and set it up here or in a different spot for people to gather.
Great. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I am talking about looking for the stories. And that is a huge part of creating content is storytelling. And I wanted to just tell you a little bit of my story. I'm a Kingdom kid with a background in journalism and ministry. I'm in a small church planting here in Portland, Maine, and the mom of two little boys, a 9-month-old and a 2.5-year-old. And I did have some great slides with pictures of them and pictures of my life in quarantine. It's impossible to get anything done these days, and it's been challenging, as I'm sure it is for many of you. And that's some of my story. Professionally, I'm the editor of disciplestoday.org. And when I first started working for DT, I had just come out of the ministry. I was in a small church. There were maybe 20 or 30 people here at the time. And it was a hard time. And I vividly remember how much the stories that I was reading and editing at Disciples Today meant to me. They helped give me so much faith. They helped remind me that I was part of a bigger story and connected to something much bigger than just my little Sunday service here. And I think that's what content creation is about. It's that it's helping people to see that they belong to a bigger story. We want to know other people's stories. We want to know how we fit into God's story. And that's what we're trying to do with creating content. It's simply doing that online. If any of you are in ministry or in leadership of any kind, you've probably had to plan a church calendar. And, you at the end of one year, you think about the next year, what's the theme going to be? What topics should we study out? And once you decide the big picture, you move on to smaller pieces. What's our Sunday series, midweek? What are we doing for small groups? At the smallest level, it's what's the order of service for Sunday morning? And that's kind of our traditional sense of content creation. What we're doing online is we're just moving all of that online. We're taking that church calendar and putting it online. So really, it's for us, content creation is figuring out what's the overarching story we want to tell. What's the theme that we're telling? For example, it could be, we're imperfect people following a perfect God. That's a little bit cheesy, but it's true. And that's one story that we could be telling. Then we want to tell a lot of small stories that support that bigger one. So that could be conversion stories. It could be my marriage is a mess. Here's how I'm overcoming conflict in it. The challenges of raising kids, especially in quarantine. raising kids with special needs, battling loneliness. All of these are small stories that can help reflect the big one. And then we fill our social channels, our websites with these stories. Just last week in Maine, we had a brother get baptized from our website. He visited our website, which is nothing fancy, by the way, but he saw pictures of young people on it. And that's why he sent us a message and came to church. And that's what we're trying to do. He saw some people that he could relate to and reached out to visit. And that's what content creation is letting people know they can be a part of our story. They can relate to us. So you can do profiles of your members or a day in the life of your member, follow your members around. Those are all different ways to think about creating content. And just practically speaking here, my last slide was going to be 3 practicals. The first is to identify your church's story. You don't want to overthink it, but you don't want to underthink it either. It's kind of like branding. It is branding, but what's the story that you're trying to tell? And there's a lot of different taglines or options out there, but identify what your church's story is. Secondly, look for the stories in your church. Everyone has a story, and they can be like powerful conversion stories, from drug addiction and homelessness. And I was at the end of my rope and then I found Jesus. It can be those kinds of stories, or it can be every day I'm a working mom of 2 little kids and I'm going crazy in quarantine, and this scripture is helping me today. That's also a story. Just our daily moments. Those are in our churches all around us. They're in us and in our community. And that leads me to my third point, which is just look for the stories in your community. How can you connect to what other people are doing? What are the needs around you? How can we become part of other people's stories and point them towards God? And that's really what creating content is about.
That's really cool. And I liked what you said about creating stories that make you feel like you're not alone or that you're part of something. So that's just like branding, in a basic sense. And that was really cool. So thanks for that.
Well, I suppose I would jump in at this point, but
Jump in there.
just want to make sure. Yeah, I just want to make sure Ben and Joshua feel like they wanted to say before I say anything. We know we're on a very limited time. We got about 34 minutes here. Were you guys going to say anything else before Liane jumped in?
I just have a small snippet on practicals, and I think it would fit maybe after you say what you want to say, Zach. It's kind of like a closing kind of segment. So if you don't mind going.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, I am a YouTuber. I've been making videos for the church for about 10 years, part-time most of the time. And some of you guys are familiar with the Kidogo YouTube channel. I'm happy to say we just passed 7,000 subscribers, which is nothing in the world of YouTube.
Still good.
But I'm happy to say, though, I was talking to a brother. He has a YouTube channel, Patrick, over 1.5 million subscribers. I was talking to him just last night. And because of the angular momentum of all this, which everyone's becoming more familiar with because of the outbreak, he was even saying, hey, bro, the difference between 1 and 7,000 is greater than 7,000 to 1 million. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with you guys is you just got to do it. So today's also a special day because I just released a movie I've been working on for 4.5 years, Finding Guy. At the current moment, let me just take a look. The movie was released on YouTube just a few hours ago, about 4 hours ago, and we have...
You did premieres of that, didn't you, Zach?
We did premiere, yes.
Yeah, I think I saw that in the premiere.
It currently has 3,100 views. So getting started. But both with the YouTube channel and with this movie, what I found is that in the kingdom, we have all different kinds of talents. You got your guy who's the air conditioning brother. You got the guy who has the truck for moving things around. Everyone has some contribution to the kingdom. There are few people in the world of media, yet we live in a time where this is a very highly desired thing. Every church in our movement has some desire for someone to rise up and do social media or web design or YouTube to advance the church. But very few people rise up and do that. It's a small minority, not because of a lack of faith, but because the talent is so hard to come by. But what's also amazing about this is that in this world, anyone can become great at it very quickly, because it's not something you need to go to school for. It's not something that you need to invest years of practice into. You can just do it. So 4.5 years ago, I reached a point where I had some very severe medical problems, and I wasn't able to do work the way I wanted to. But I asked disciples around the world to pray for me to have wisdom. Thousands of disciples are praying. And that's when I came up with the idea for this movie. So we had no funding for this movie, no real supplies or assets, but we just prayed that God would make it work. And very quickly, we raised $10,000. We've been working on the movie on and off for 4.5 years, and now it's finally getting out. It's been shown in churches around the world, but there had to be an initial point of deciding, we're just going to do it. We don't have permission. We don't have people supporting us. Let's just do it and ask around, and we'll make it happen. Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Yeah, 7,000 subscribers. But same thing with this YouTube channel. Over a year and a half ago, we were called ICOC Hot News. We had a YouTube channel, but we barely used it. It just kind of was there. And we thought, hey, we're going to have to amp up our game going on YouTube. And we didn't have a lot of guidance, didn't have a lot of advice. We didn't have a lot of people behind us. We just said, let's just do it. Now, of course, when you do it, you run into problems. You run into walls. So, for example, we forgot to tell people we were going to do this. And so we had some people freaking out on day one saying, what, did you guys whole time? Same thing with the Finding Guy movie. We once showed part of it at the Reach conference 4 years ago, or a few years ago. And we forgot that there were young children in the audience. And so we had people complaining to us that we had a movie trailer about homosexuality being played. And we're like, oh, sorry, we forgot about that. And so you can't always foresee all the different things that are going to come up, but you just have to do it. And so my encouragement for everyone watching this, oh, and by the way, Christopher Knoll from India, I'm glad you're on this, glad you're following. It's great to see you, bro. My encouragement to everyone is, if you have no talent in doing this, that's okay. God can use you. You just have to decide, I'm going to do it, and stick with it, and great things can happen. So that's my small piece in addition to the advice these other creators are giving you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I saw your premiere. I can't remember when, but it was great. And you said it's on YouTube now?
Yeah, it is for free. Put up into 3 parts. I'll put it right here into the.
If you have a link, just go ahead and throw it right here, and people can go to that.
There's the link.
Real quick, I posted on the side about slides. If you guys want to email me your slides, and I'll if you have one, and then I'll email them out to the people. I'm already getting blown up right now for people who want the slides if we have them. So I'll send those out immediately after. I'm Josh. Like I said, I work with Ben at Truce Media. I am also a part of a political organization, nonprofit in Phoenix, and I do the content for them. You know, we do a lot of content with politicians, and my experience with that has really just seen the what it means to pump out mass amount of content. You know, we have a team here of like 30 people, and the amount of content that they pump out is just insane. I mean, we're talking like 4 to 15 posts a day on every platform. And so my goal was to try to kind of implement some practicals of like what I've learned in my experience, and try to like bring it into a church environment for churches of small, medium, and large sizes to kind of, you know, take some notes from that and then start applying it to themselves. And Zach's right, you just have to go and do it. Me and Ben at Truce, we just we had this idea, with our co-founder Brandon and Kayla, who's hosting this event, to just come together with all of our knowledge and resources and just have a get a building and try to put this together, and we just did it. And now we have coronavirus, and all of our events that we've done are completely gone, and you're kind of left to like, well, what do we do now, right? But thankful for that, because it spawns this creativity for us to do a live platform and all come together and maybe try to do something a little new and try to teach each other some things that can help us all during this time, and especially in the church. So real quick, I just want to talk about scope. It's kind of already said, but when you want to create stuff, you're always asking like, what is the message you're trying to share? And the more specific you can be, the better the outcome for whether it's, I'm in the video world, so most of this is honed into video, so that's what I'll be talking about. So like what your video is trying to say, the message you're trying to get across, and then what are your objectives. It's always great to have this written down, to have a script or a description of all this. Doing things on the fly tends to lead to shifting waters in maybe some of the stuff shifting waters to your message, your core message. So it's always good to have a description on that. You want to create time frame for yourself. So many projects I've done don't have a time frame and they just never get done. So it's always good to just create a calendar, create a schedule for the content that you want to put out and go and do it. Allocating tasks. What is it going to take to get this done? Or if you're making videos for the church, live streams for the church, content, posts for the church, what is it going to take to get these done? Do you have a team to do it? Is someone volunteering to do this? These are things that need to be talked about, discussed, and then implemented. Deliverables. This is just what is going out. How are you going to deliver it? Facebook, YouTube, all the social media platforms. Is it a movie like Zach's making? Is it a long form piece that you're going to distribute? Just understanding what your final deliverables are going to be and then where they're going to go. And then assumptions versus statistics. Most of what we do is assuming that like if when you do stuff, you want to know that there's an audience, and you do some, hopefully you do your homework, and so whatever you produce, people are interested in that content. For church sake, you're doing content that is for members or people who are interested in church. So you have this assumption that your audience is going to bite, but then following up with stats and what's getting the most engagement per se, and it's not all just for views and for likes. It's about really like who's engaging in the content you are doing, who's answering questions, who's wanting more of what you're saying. Those are the kind of things that you want to look for, because that's the stuff that really matters, and that's the stuff that you can double down on and then provide a real service to the people who are engaging in your content. Team, I wanted to talk real quick. Most of the churches I've encountered have no team, and it's just one person doing the job, or it's the youth pastor who also is the social media person, who also cleans up the buildings and puts everything together. And that's usually the case for people. So that's okay. You want to figure out what's your bandwidth and how to start somewhere, like Zach was saying, and do what you can with what you have. When it comes to team, you want to ask yourself, who's dedicated to, I'm talking about content being posted for social media right now, who's dedicated to this weekly? What are the tasks at hand? Who's dedicated to those? Blending those tasks based on a budget. Like I was saying, most people are doing multiple different things. Trying not to overwork that person or individual if it's just one person. Consider, and then I want to talk about mindset and considering the team or that individual as an outreach effort, and not so much as anything like negative. I think we're finally at a place where churches, ministries are seeing the value in video and social media platforms. It just there's a lot of traditions, at least in my experience seeing churches, there's a lot of traditions that didn't want to be broken, and your original service, in-person services are the only way to go, and that's changing. And just considering your efforts online as an outreach effort is really going to just change the mindset into a positive one that I think will bear results subconsciously. And it's about intent. Like, your intent is really to serve people and to love people and to bring them in and let them know about God. So, and then the team also having a consistent effort. It's not really going to do much if you're doing stuff that's, one-off here and there, kind of going on what Rayanne was saying about building the brand, and just establishing something that's consistent that people will want to go to. Content, like Ben was saying, is platform based. You want to do stuff for each social media, not just regurgitate stuff on each platform. In my experience, front loading content and being concise is the best thing. So if you have a small speech that's being read, or something, some piece of content, just putting like a very interesting part of it in the front to engage people, and then having them watch the whole thing. In my experience, video-based content is the best content for most engagement. Content ideas. If you're struggling with ideas, testimony videos, scripture reads, reading scriptures on camera, clips from sermons, clips from events, from speakers that have done events, Bible stories brought to life, whether that's animation, if you're skilled enough, and or reenacting those in some sort of creative way. If you're doing a series, which most churches are, having some video or posts related to that series. And then what Leanne was saying as well is like church stories, and just identifying what's unique about your church. So those are some things to think about, throw out there, and just and maybe that can help anyone who's watching this to just come up with better ideas to serve their community. Some practical things before I end right now. I don't know what our time frame is.
We've got 20 minutes, so maybe a couple more minutes. Yeah.
Got 20 more minutes. Some useful things, practicals. If you don't have a team, if it's just one person on your team and you're looking to engage in social media, I would start asking questions on your posts. Just a simple question to help engagement with the people who are watching, whether it's a spiritual question or something that is a kind of general question for the times of what's happening. Maybe it's a coronavirus question, just to start engagement with the people who are already watching, and then communicating, reposting that answer, and then tagging them in it. That way people know who this person is, and you start a dialogue with them. And then when people feel like they're being heard, they're going to engage more. And if you have better content on there, they're going to see your brand, your church, as something that has authority, something that can better their lives, and something that they want to spend time on. And if you can couple that in with the gospel and Christian values, that's a win-win for everybody. Later.com is a site for posting Instagram. I would check that out. Frame.io is a platform where you can post your videos and share it with people to get feedback. So if I'm on someone that I've cut doing, they can go check it on, leave notes, send it back to me. It's all online, like a cloud-based, very easy to use, very useful. I use that every day. When searching the web, there's a ton of resources out there. I like Pro Church Tools with Brady Shearer. I would literally just Google Pro Church Tools. He's got amazing resources that are already up, and I would check him out. Envato Market has all the templates you need for really, really cheap to start creating posts that are creative and engaging. And, you know, if you don't have a graphic artist or if you're limited in your skills, that's something that's extremely useful right off the bat. Videoblocks.com is a source for stock video, and I use that for numerous projects that you have a license to, and then you can use that for your videos if you're telling a story and don't have all the pieces or the resources to go shoot that. And then Upsplash is a great stock image site that allows you to do a ton of stuff with their images on a free license. So those are just some practical tools that I'll have on a list as well and send those out to the people who are interested. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say as far as my end on content creation. I don't know, was there anything else you guys wanted to discuss at this time?
Yes, a couple questions coming in. I don't know if you guys want to answer some of these questions.
Let's do it.
Cool.
I got one.
The first one we got yesterday was about TikTok and creating content in various ways, specifically for Sunday sermons. You know, you're kind of tied to what you've been doing in those. How do you take that content or those messages or those stories and you put them on Instagram and TikTok? And I know TikTok's a big one. So does anyone have or has been working with that?
I would say the things I've seen with sermons and messages are they take snippets of sermon. Maybe I think TikTok's only 15 seconds, but I think you can max it out at 60 seconds with clips attached, sequential clips. And I've seen where TikTok runs a lot on audio reloops. So somebody will do an audio and then they do a video based on that audio, and then someone remixes it with their own version. So making your own, like maybe audio piece that people can use, maybe it's a scripture or maybe it's the intonation of someone's voice on a scripture that people can then use and then go stuff. But I've also seen like where they take like a snippet of an actual sermon and then you just put like a title on it, like what it's like to be a Christian, and then it's the sermon, right? And then basically when you're scrolling through, the first thing you're going to see is what it's like to be a Christian, and you're going to stop and then watch that, and if it engages you, then you're going to go to the channel. But those are some ways that I've seen people already start to use church and ministry and spiritual things with TikTok. It's obviously for a younger generation. When I first saw TikTok, I wanted to throw my phone against the wall because I thought it was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's all about continuing to work with the platform. And once you're on there, you start to see there's a lot of creative tools, a lot of masks, digital masks, sounds. And it's basically just consider TikTok as a DJ. Like you're a DJ, you're reusing people's content into your own form. So if there's a way to bring the message and like couple it with something that's maybe a little popular at the time, you're just DJing and throwing it out there and hopefully bringing in people that want to be engaged with that content, a positive spiritual message.
Yeah, and I would add to that, tying back to what I was talking about, it is all about the audiences that you're talking to, and there's a different audience on TikTok than there is maybe potentially in your on Sunday mornings. So you have to establish, do you want to be talking to those kind of people, which is kind of younger generations? And so then you have to do some research on, hey, we have this story, we have this message that we want to get across. Do some research and see if someone is doing something similar on TikTok itself, and then basically create your content for that audience, that younger generation, in a way that those people will consume it on TikTok. So it basically has to fit within TikTok's sort of world and talk to those people. And anything else on TikTok specifically? Cool.
Yeah, it's just kind of a fun platform too. So just have fun with it as well.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
take yourself too
Yeah, definitely
seriously
fun.
with it.
Yeah, yeah. advice for content when we don't have any events going on, or really anything physical going on. Where can you get content? How can you even just get pictures or video? Anyone have ideas on that?
I responded in the chat here, but I think, right now, screenshots are great content. It's awesome to see different people's faces, and especially across different countries and cultures. So I think if you're just looking for content from your church, take a screenshot of your Zoom midweek or family group, or even the different ways that different family groups are having their gatherings online. That's one way you can get some images right now. And then secondly, you can share content. And I think that's something that's great about Facebook and some of the other platforms is that it's really easy just to share content that other people have already made. And I think that does a lot for all of our churches when we share each other's content. But it just saves you the work of having to come up with something all the time. And so look at what other people are doing and share it, and that'll help you out too.
Yeah, great. And then another one, advice for contents for the diverse followers, and hitting them all at the same time. And I think that comes down to your audience. A lot of different sorts of people live in different on different platforms. So some people only have Instagram and don't have Facebook. Some people only do TikTok, and that's all. So it's really coming up with your message or your story, what you want to tell, and then who you want to tell that to. And it might look a little bit different depending on the platforms that you're focusing on, because those audiences are living on those platforms.
Maybe,
that's what I would say.
Zach, maybe you can talk about the process of the subject matter of why you chose that, because at a time like this, I think a lot of creativity is in the air. I think that's a positive of this time alone. And so maybe there's something why you chose that topic that people can take and maybe start to develop a script or something that they want to pursue in a long form.
Yeah. So first off, in the world of Christian media, there's a lot of really awkward stuff out there. Just awkward on multiple levels. Awkward because it's really low quality. Awkward because it's so preachy, it's unbearable. Awkward because it's not self-aware. And so we decided when we made our stuff, we were just going to not do any of that. So you talk easy stuff. Like when we first started our YouTube channel, we made videos about how to have a better quiet time, how to pray. People just didn't care. You can ask your discipler how to get better at praying. You can ask your minister. You can ask your friend. But a lot of questions that people had real concerns about, things about medications, things about homosexuality, things about race relation issues. A lot of Christians really don't know where to go to get that. And there's plenty of speakers who are willing to talk about it, but you might only get one chance in 2 years to attend such event. Or they'll be at these conferences when you have to decide which of those do you want to hear from. So we decided we're just going to go right into all of that stuff, the things that people really want answers to. We're going to find people who are willing to give an answer. We also realized if you make it an hour long, people aren't going to listen to you anyway, because they're like, I'm not that interested. I just wanted the answer. Just give me the answer, So we decided to limit our videos to 3 or 4 minutes long. Funny enough, though, again, I was talking to that YouTuber last night, Disciple, who has over 1.5 million subscribers now. He advised me to increase the length of our videos from 5 to 10. So always learning, growing, because it seems like people are interested enough for 10 minutes, maybe not for 20.
Especially on the YouTube platform.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, you guys are talking about different platforms and stuff. Leanne, you're great with Facebook. You guys were just talking about TikTok, but I am just a YouTube guy. That's my only contribution to this social media world.
YouTube is the biggest platform, so I mean it's a good one to know. And I think based on what you were saying is kind of, if you're struggling for ideas for your church, especially at this time, I think vulnerable videos, based on what you were saying, the vulnerability of hard subjects, doing a Skype message just like this, where you talk to somebody, I mean, this isn't a Skype one, but you talk to somebody about these subjects, maybe do a panel, and then you throw it out there. That's interesting, engaging, useful content with purpose, and it's not fluff.
Yeah, totally. And I would say that just on like a production standpoint, when we're producing content, we're usually producing it not on any platform, and then we're taking that set of content and then putting it on these platforms, specifically for Instagram, for TikTok, for YouTube. So if you're like, if we're doing a branding video for a company and their website, we'll do sort of a mini documentary, and it could be 10 minutes long, of describing the story of where the company came from, what they're trying to do with their company, what are the things that they believe in, and kind of talking to that audience, like who their audience is. Then we'll cut that into smaller bits from that bigger video. We'll cut that into smaller bits for your Instagram. Maybe we'll leave the longer one for YouTube because it likes longer videos. And stuff like that you can just find out which platform likes different formats. But the piece that you're creating and the message you're creating is sort of opposite of or not on those platforms, and then you're taking it and putting it and making it fit into those platforms. But the more you can think about that prior to your production or creating any content, the better off you will be, and the more set up you'll be for, putting something on TikTok that comes from a 10-minute documentary about be. Someone had a question about how do you convert and engage online followers to real life engagement. So like someone engaging on Facebook or Instagram, how do you actually get them probably into your church is what they're asking.
Leanne, I wanted to maybe with the stuff you're doing, need anything in particular with this question about anything you've done with Disciples Today leading to real people entering buildings?
First, I would say that people are talking about this on a lot of the other sessions that I've seen, and I think just it's kind of been touched on in all the stages that I've seen. So I would go to those guys. They're doing it really well. At Disciples Today, we have the church locator, and that's the I personally get the emails from everyone who is looking for someone on the church locator, and we get every day 1 to 5 people looking for a church near them, and so you can. I think that's the biggest tool that we have, and we just point people to their local church. And if I can, I'll copy the minister and say, here, you can directly connect to so and so right there. And that's one tool that we use. And yeah, I think I would just say try to check out some of the other sessions, because I'm not a professional at doing this in my local church. We're working on it, but I got a long way to go.
Zach, with your YouTube channel, it's mostly just spiritual content, right? It's not really a brand for any particular church, correct?
Yeah, and the name is supposed to be ambiguous, where it's not like super religious. I mean, we also have some other random stuff in there, like how to take women on dates, how to take guys on dates. I also have my proposal on there, which has over 5,000 views, which, by the way, was ranked best proposal video ever by the viral video show on national television right this minute. At least they gave it to me that. So we try to have some kind of introductory stuff, but so it's spiritual, but it's not like at the forefront, like the the 5 Christian ways of spiritual growth. Just I think people just get turned off. Even Christians and disciples get turned off when they see things like that. So
no, I think. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would say what Josh said in the beginning here, just like responding to people's engagement online. So if you do a video on YouTube and someone responds to it, I mean, sometimes I'll do a video for a company and I'll see a response on there and then they won't respond back to that person. And that's just kind of like a lost opportunity, no matter who you are and what you're trying to do. So I would say that converting people from those like online followers, subscription on YouTube, or just views on Instagram, just engaging with them and saying who you are and what you do and what you want from them really is always a good idea.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zach.
There's a bunch of different comments in the chat here about this YouTuber. Just real quick on that. I'm not going to give you the brother's name, but it is a brother in our movement. He runs a YouTube channel called Tier Zoo. It's basically zoology. So if you're really big into animals and compare to one another, that's your thing. So, but he's done it really well. So if you're one of the 1.8 million zoologists in the world who are interested in that kind of thing, that you got to check that out. So
yeah, and that's such a niche kind of field, which is great for YouTube or any platform, because you become like an expert in that, and people want to go to you because of that. I would say that how it translates is first the mindset. Like, what are you asking? To people coming into my church, sitting in our pews and tithing. Is that what you're asking? Or are you asking like for people to come in and actually engage with the church? Because there are multiple online ways for donating that you can implement online. I think it's about, and I listed, it's in the slides, the channel I recommended for talking about churches and the tools used for churches. He talks about the hours that you do have with your congregation, and it's usually an hour, 2 hours a week, right, at a Sunday, Thursday service. But what about the 167 hours is what he talks about. What about those hours? What are you doing in those hours as a church? And those are the hours that you can post online. Those are the hours that you can engage with your community to bring in people to actually start to build an online community. And how that translates is it gives people trust. There's a mass exodus. That's just a fact. You look up that anywhere, and people do not want to go to church. They'll do online church, but they don't want to be in the seats anymore. They don't want to engage in stuff that they feel is not serving them. I'm one of those people. And I've felt that numerous times. An online church provides a first step to come back into a congregation. And for me, it's been extremely helpful to continually renew my faith and then prepare me for a congregation and coming back into an environment, because I think, as many people know, the church environment, and there's so many nuances that it can become distasteful. And so using media as a tool to bring people back in and to let people know that you're still cared about and that you are not forgotten about, and that the people who are in between aren't lost, and that they still can be involved in some way. It's steps, and it just takes time, and it takes patience. And by being someone they can, you're being someone they can trust. So that would be my advice.
Well, I think we've reached our time, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. And I was just gonna. There was one more question. Is there something such as too much content? And I would say no. Right?
No.
I don't know.
Sounds like you're thinking too much.
Right. Don't live stream your life 24/7, maybe. But other than that, right. That's just make it, like Zach said, just do it. Leanne, just come up with stories for an audience, and then use all the tools that Josh gave you guys, and we all hopefully helped you with, and hopefully we can help you further as well.
Yeah, if you guys have any other posts that you want to post on the side for any of the stuff that you're doing, Zach, Leanne, Ben, go ahead and post it now. But yeah, we'll close this session off, and just want to thank you guys for being on here. Leanne, your slides, send them to me. I'm going to email them out to people. And I think that's everything, unless I'm missing something.
Sounds
Great.
good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, guys. You guys have a good day.
Bye.
Have a good one.